Hello, everybody, and welcome into a new week of Devils in Detail Live. I'm Killian McClatchey, joined alongside Alyanna, Harina, as we have the big show planned for you as conference play is starting up for all sports this week.
ASU's women's soccer and volleyball wrapped up their non-conference slates this past week, and each are getting ready for a tough Pac-12 schedule. Soccer will take on Oregon State, while volleyball kicks off conference play with a rivalry match against U of A.
Well, we will get into soccer and volleyball. We will start off with the ASU football team as they come off of a tough loss against Texas Tech last week, 52-45. While the Devils fought back after being down by 18 at one point, they weren't able to come away with a victory. We have beat reporter Zach Picale with us to break down last week and talk to us a little bit about this week's Pac-12 opener with Oregon. We now welcome in Arizona State football beat reporter Zach Picale to talk a little bit about last weekend's matchup against Texas Tech and this weekend's about Oregon. But let's get started. We saw N'Keal Harry get the ball a little bit more this weekend. 14 touches to be exact against the Red Raiders. How does his involvement make this ASU football team better?
Well, that one carry definitely stands out, but 13 catches for 148 yards. This is what Sun Devil fans signed up for when N'Keal Harry picked ASU last season. He is the most talented player on this football team, offense or defense, hands down. So the fact that he is just now breaking double digits in catches is a bit confusing. But I do think that as the coaching staff realizes how talented N'Keal Harry is, they're going to incorporate him more and more into the offense, and he's going to get to rise to national prominence as he should.
Exactly. You did mention that he was the best on both offense and defense. Are you saying that you'd like to see N'Keal Harry on the defensive side of the ball a little bit?
I wouldn't mind him trying double backer, but for right now, we'll just keep him at receiver.
All right. Receiver works for me, too. So, looking forward, big game this weekend, the undefeated Oregon Ducks and new head coach Willie Taggart coming to town. What can we expect to see from these two teams when they get together Saturday night?
Well, we're going to see quite a bit of points, to be exact, particularly in the first half, though. Oregon's had some troubles in the second half scoring points. 42-point first half, so the last two weekends, I think they're very capable of matching that, if not exceeding it, against the Sun Devils' leaky secondary. But both teams will be putting up quite a few points.
Certainly. So now, looking long-term, I think it's safe to say that Todd Graham, his seat's a little warm. Do you think this team and him has what it takes to keep him in Tempe for at least another season?
No, I think the clock on Todd Graham has run out. I think the schedule's too brutal down the stretch, this 5-game period. And it lights up a little bit at the end, but at that point, I think the damage will have been done. I see the Sun Devils finishing about 3-9 this season. For Graham to keep his job, I see them having to go about 7-5 or 8-4. So I'm going to have to say that Todd Graham's time in Tempe is coming to an end.
It definitely is a rough stretch to keep going. Thanks, Zach. We'll have to see how the team looks this weekend as they have that tough matchup with Oregon. Great having you on, and don't forget to follow Zach and the rest of the team on Twitter and devilsindetail.com for the latest news on all things ASU football. We'll throw it over from the field to the pitch as Alyanna is with Sam Ficarro to talk a little football.
Thanks, Killian. I'm here with soccer reporter Sam Ficarro to talk a little bit of a different type of football. Thanks for joining me, Sam.
Glad to be here.
All right, so big win from ASU this past weekend, shutting out Weber State 4-0. They finally put some goals up on the board. What did you see from the Sun Devils that's been different?
Yeah, it was good to see ASU finally finish their chances. Hawaii, they were shut out 1-0 in overtime despite having 19 shots. So this, against Weber State Sunday, they put up 31 shots, 14 on goal, and 4 went into the back of the net. So that definitely the midfield play was really strong, setting up Jasmine Mader and Olive Jones. Jones had a goal for ASU. And then also they've continued to succeed on set pieces. That's been a big thing for the Sun Devils, is really score on their set pieces considering the length and the height they have on that team. So it was a big confidence boost heading into Pac-12 play.
So you mentioned Pac-12 play. Pac-12's a very competitive soccer conference. How do you see the Sun Devils stacking up against big teams like Stanford, UCLA, USC?
Yeah, it'll be tough for ASU. After the Oregon State on Friday, they'll have 4 straight games against Pac-12 teams against the Bay Area and the LA schools, who were all ranked in the top 20. So it will be an uphill battle for ASU, but the defender Angela Boyle said for UCLA specifically, not to overlook them after they scored more goals against Weber State than UCLA did. So I think ASU, the confidence is there. It's just a matter of them finishing their chances. The amount of chances won't be there in Pac-12 play when the defenses and the goalkeepers will be a lot stronger. So hopefully they get off to a good start against Oregon State Friday, because that will set the tone for their whole Pac-12 campaign.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Great stuff as always.
Thank you.
So from one competitive Pac-12 sport to another, we go to Killian and Trevor to break down what's to come for the women's volleyball team.
A busy week for Arizona State athletics doesn't end on the grass. The volleyball team is heading into conference play on a high note as they swept the UT Arlington Maverick Classic this past weekend, making their record 10-2. I have Trevor Booth with me to talk about what he saw from the ladies this past weekend and all of non-conference play. Trevor, welcome in. Welcome behind the desk, my friend.
Absolutely, I'm ready to go.
All right, fantastic. So one thing we've seen so far this season is head coach Sonia Tomasevich. She used a variety of setters so far in the non-conference. Is there one that stands out to you as the go-to setter?
You know, I think for me, it's freshman Shelby Dobmeyer, and that's hard to say, especially being a freshman in the Pac-12 conference. But the ability for her, especially after the Sun Devil Classic in the first weekend, to kind of be the leader, or she was the leader in Pac-12 in assists. And I think for her ability to kind of evenly distribute the kills, it's not just to Okaro and Hughes. And that's not a knock against Nicole Peterson, some of the other setters. It's just, I think going forward, when you play teams of the high caliber that they're going to face, it's important that you have an even offense and an offense that's going to come at you in a variety of ways. So I think definitely Shelby has proved that, despite Nicole having an outstanding weekend.
All right, speaking of the offense, the Pac-12 is a powerful conference, and you have to be able to score in order to win the matches, obviously. Offensively, this team, they look sharp with Gruyere Hughes, Ivana Jeremic, and Prayton Grahovic, just to name a couple of the players. Do you think this team can keep up that balanced attack against some of these better Pac-12 teams? You
know, it's going to be really tough, especially with 3 teams in the top 10 for the Pac-12, and 3 of these teams going to the Elite 8 last year. So I think it's definitely going to come down to Hallie Harker and how she's going to be able to set up the offense, reading the hits of some of the big outside hitters she's going to face in non-conference play and getting in those spots to set up the passes, because you don't get a kill without a good pass. So it's going to be important for her to be in the right spots, set up the multitude of options that she has, and hopefully, which I think she will, I think she can do it, and I think the Sun Devils are going to be able to step up to this challenge.
Certainly, and you mentioned Harker. We're going to take a look at a little history now. She's a senior libero. She moved into 3rd place in digs for her Sun Devil career over the past weekend. What does she mean to this team?
I think she's everything for this team. Coach Tomasevich is coming in looking to establish a championship culture as she was as a player at 2005 in Washington. And I think Hallie's just an embodiment of the coaching staff. She's out there communicating on every ball, getting in the right position, and showing poise as a senior leader. And I think going forward, Coach Tomasevich is going to want to model her 10 new players after what Hallie represents. And Hallie being there for so long and being one of the all-time greats in Sun Devil history, she's going to point to her as kind of the leader and say, hey, this is what we want to try to establish going forward.
All right, fantastic, Trevor. Now we have our other guy, Carson Field, over at the screen to show us what the Sun Devils have in store for this big opening weekend in conference play.
Thanks, Killian. As we already talked about, the ASU volleyball team opens up conference play this weekend against Arizona in Washington. Arizona comes into the match 6-3, and they have won 2 of 3 this past weekend in the Wildcat Classic. Their record is currently the worst in the Pac-12, and they have attained a hitting percentage of .241, which is also the worst in the conference. A player to watch for Arizona is Julia Patterson, who averages 10.5 assists per set, which is 7th in the Pac-12. The Devils also play against Washington this weekend on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Washington comes into the game 10-1, and the Huskies were the Pac-12 champions in 2016. One impressive stat for the Huskies is that they leave the conference in service aces with 68. So Harker and the rest of the crew will face tougher serves than they have the entire season. 2 players to watch for Washington are Marian Hazelwood and Lauren Sanders. They are 1st and 2nd in the conference in blocks per set with 1.71 and 1.66 respectively. Because of this, ASU will have to avoid unforced errors as the Washington defense is the best the team has faced all season. Don't forget to follow myself and the rest of the coverage team this weekend and all season long for the most up-to-date ASU volleyball headlines and scores on Twitter and on devilsindetail.com. Back to you guys at the desk.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carson. It's a big weekend pretty much in every single sport for Arizona State.
Starting up with conference, definitely.
Conference, you got U of A, always the Territorial Cup. It's always a big one there. But I believe that's pretty much all we've got.
Yeah, well, that's it from us. For more content from everyone on the show, make sure to check us out at devilsindetail.com or follow us on Twitter at devils_detail. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.